very interesting show today. This is R.K.D. Harris talking to you with a very interesting subject today. I have with me today a young man who you're going to see something interesting. Now here I am sitting with a suited and booted, and here's a young man with his head like he's got it on, and he's sharp, but you're going to find something out about this brother. Look how we're both hooked up in the same field. We're in music. How you doing, David Spectra?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good to meet you, man. We're going to be talking about something today that's very interesting, music. You and I are both in the music field. Now, I'm in the gospel field, but you're in a very interesting field, and we're going to talk about music. Now, first of all, you deal with blues, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me find out something. I just had to do a little research on this. The stylistic origins of blues is like folk music, work songs, spirituals, and in the late 19th century, they tell me it came from southern United States. The typical instruments are guitar, bass guitar, piano, harmonica, upright bass, drums, saxophone, vocals, trumpet, cornet, and the trombone. Now, do you play one of those instruments?
Yeah.
You play the guitar, right?
Yes.
So tell me, how did you get involved with wanting to get into music, first of all? What sparked you're very talented, by the way.
Thank you. It was always, music is always around us, as you know, and it was never my intention to ever play a guitar or anything, but as I got older, it seemed like you always saw a guitar in somebody's house, whether they played it or not. And then when I went to music and art, not for music, as an artist, it seemed like everybody had a guitar. And I started thinking about it. And then just before music and art, you always had like other musicians in the neighborhood, you know,
right.
like your parents' friends or stuff like that, so you were close to them. And that was an influence. And somewhere, I think before I went to school, I heard B.B. King.
Interesting.
And well, B.B. King, from that point on, he has identity. When I say that, I mean like you hear him, you automatically know who it is. That was the first musician I heard that had that. And then, you know, my parents' collections, I started recognizing other people who had identity too, like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and Jackie Wilson. You heard him, you knew who it was.
So you're saying when you went to music and art, your desire was not for music, but it was for art?
Yeah.
So that's interesting how that turned around with you. So how did you get involved with, what made you want to deal with blues though, when it comes to?
You can't escape it. That's why, because blues is not just music, it's life. It's life. It's not about, you know, being sad, which it is, but it's also the happy side of life. It's because you take somebody who's wealthy and rich, right? They go to a psychiatrist. Why do they go to the psychiatrist? Because they have the blues, and they go to the psychiatrist because they're paying big money to try to solve them.
Right.
Right? Now you he's spending, what a psychiatrist charge now, about a big shot charging over $200 an hour.
Oh man, wow.
Let's say $500 an hour. You're telling him all your personal problems and all this.
Right.
He doesn't care. He's going to tell you to take some kind of drug to keep you coming back there.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Right.
So they have their blues too. Whereas if you're poor, you're going to come out there and say, hey, you know how I feel, what we're going to do about this.
So does blues, my impression of the blues, I mean, like I say, being raised with gospel and the church general, you know, it was sort of like, you know, my thing with blues was, well, when I was a kid, they had a movie. I don't know if you ever heard of Learning Tree.
Yeah, I remember that.
Gordon Parks wrote this, and he made that in my hometown. And they had a scene in that movie, which I was in, by the way, as a kid, where the man was like, my baby is gone. You know, it's almost seemed like it was like, just like you said, a sad thing. Is that the way blues was traditionally as opposed to today? Because blues is still popular today, right? How is it?
It's repopularized, you know, like in spurts and whatnot.
Okay.
And across the Atlantic, it's like the classical music. Everybody's like, because I heard it's like the way over here we look at Beethoven, they look at blues and the blues artists over there. Because when the British invasion, like the Beatles, the Stones, and all those guys came over here, who learned off of the older Nubian American artists. They was expecting when they met them, they thought these guys were living like kings, only to find out all these guys were living in almost harrowing poverty, including B.B. King.
Interesting you say that, because going back to, since we're talking about the history of music, I learned a couple of things. Like I'm classically trained, and I play the cello, and studying like Mozart and Beethoven, like you said, these guys were poor, but they were talented. Some of them were not really poor, it's that they lived beyond their means. They did make a lot of money when they was there. So I was thinking about what you said about, like, for instance, we're talking about blues, the genre of music. People talk about forms and the genre. I was studying a little bit just for this interview, and it said a genre was like Beethoven wrote a violin concerto, and Mendelssohn wrote one. It's the same genre, but their styles are different.
Right.
So when it comes to gospel blues, the style of blues is different than what it. And it's interesting you mentioned that.
We have different styles of music, especially in America. And if you want to get indigenous, you know, to black folks, well, yeah, we have different styles of things and whatnot.
Do you say blues is basically like you said, black folks?
No, I said certain indigenous because first you say blues, we'll say black.
Right.
Okay, we're the originators of many things, I guess in the blues too. But when they started separating the thing as a downtrodden thing, and it got to the point where certain people, well, if you're from the South, your grandparents could tell you how certain employers who were white at the time didn't want you to be black. It made you feel ashamed of it, your color, your skin, which is why women have straightened their hair, and the guys wore concolines and all that process to be acceptable.
You get into some, you get into some heavy stuff when we talk about music, right?
Well, this was all a part of it.
Yeah, and the reason that's interesting is because it said the call and response. Like church music, they say, in the morning when I rise, and like the leader will say that in the morning. So this is like, you said the blues came out of the spirituals, they said. Kind of came out of spirituals, which, like you said, that's the slave mentality back in the day.
Well, see,
sort of like,
a lot of people got brainwashed into the people who, you heard the term devil's music before, right?
Ah, interesting.
Now, the people you hear, and the people most will say that, or either like the elders from, say, the late 18th or let's say the late 19th century, and maybe your grandmother might have said, you turned on Chuck Berry, oh, that's devil's music, turn it off, which they were brainwashed because the first devil's music was the very gospel that they loved. Why was it called devil's music? Maybe because it wasn't sung always in English, and if it was making people feel good, you cannot have the slaves feeling good.
Well, the gospel, they didn't even, at one point, really traditional, I'm going back maybe like, I don't say centuries, but 50, 60, 70 years, they didn't even want you to have a guitar or a drum in the church. But with the blues, now getting to this now, because I got something powerful we're going to drop on the audience about you that they won't know, but I want you to tell them. The church music kind of started putting that in, and they felt like if you played drums, you were sinful. But now now everything is modernized. And yeah.
So. Again, they were brainwashed by the society of white supremacy. Now, we know what that is, and white supremacy is nothing but a big myth. The biggest myth to white supremacy is the truth. The plight of poor whites in America, which there are plenty of them. But you notice when it comes to poor, whose face gets shown? Right.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Right. So to keep that, and that's all the part. And unfortunately, a lot of black folks, especially Christian black folks, follow that. They say, okay, because this is right, and I found it to be a whole lot of nonsense. Gospel is truth. Anything you play, I don't care whether it's rock to hip hop or whatever, if you're telling the truth, and it's a positive truth, where people can learn and do positive things, that's what it's all really about. But now, if you're having the negative truth, whereas the lousy marketing and the slaving of hip hop, which I have seen in the business, you get some say like you have a well-educated kid, and he has a talent, and they go out there and they be rappers. Well, the management says you got to sit there and degrade yourself, you know, curse and say nigger and all this stuff, whole bitch and all that stuff.
Oh my, you're getting a little heavy. Let me say something because the time is wrapping up too.
Yeah.
But I got to get something with you. Now you said something about the racial things, you know, from Europe and everything. I just realized that in my study they had what they call Canadian blues and British blues. That's not really known much because most of the time we think about blues, you take, say, Memphis or Kansas City or something like that.
Well, yeah.
Now, I want a short answer because we got to get to the point about you real quick, okay? Yeah.
Okay. Take Elvis Presley, right?
There you go.
The same thing is done the same. They did the Elvis Presley thing the same way they did religion with your Christ thing and whatnot.
Okay.
And then, and so you have people speaking out, because now with Elvis Presley, when he came out, he was hated by the brainwashed white folks who let, or like I say, the zealots, regardless of colors and whatnot. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this is bad. Well, God is perfect, okay? God is perfect. I share more of an Islamic point of view. However, I couldn't join any religion because I like to see women in tight skirts.
Okay, now we're going to see you shifting gears up now.
But I'm being for real.
I appreciate that. But here's what I really want to get to, David. You recently have a powerful testimony. You were inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. Can you share a little bit of how that came about? Because your viewers may not know.
Okay. I don't even know. You know,
what is the Blues Hall of Fame? We don't know. You know.
Okay, it's being recognized by your peers in the industry.
Okay.
Whatnot. This time, a round of us was picked in this area, in this region, the tri-state area. It was looking for unsigned musicians, unsigned artists who are not. When I say unsigned, who are not with the major labels and whatnot.
I don't believe this. And I don't know what to say, but thank you. I guess I'm still dreaming that. Hey, it's real! I did it! Yeah. Okay, we're going to do a little number here and whatnot. I will call out some words, and this is what we come up with. Some of you might have recognized me at the stadium, Subway Strange, and even in some good clubs. So we're going to do a little something here. I guess medium tempo here.
Give it up for David Spectra, New Jersey Blues Hall of Fame.
I think when I bought my computer about almost 4 years ago, the first thing I wanted to figure out was how to network my music. Once I saw how I could do that, that helped too.
Oh,
and
exactly.
then I worked all up and down the East Coast for several years because I'm very well known in parts of the South, like South Carolina, especially the city of Columbia. Hello, Columbians. Did anybody see it?
You know what would be interesting? If you and I could, now you know I play organ and piano, but my main instrument is actually electric cello. Anything you do with the voice, I hook it up with the cello. I wonder what would happen if me and you was to sit down and do something with your guitar and my cello. That would be interesting.
Then you would know what you get another side of the blues.
Ah.
That's all. Even if we're not doing 12-bar stuff, so we can be doing some P-funk, whatever it is.
Because see, most people think when it comes to like strings, like cello, now guitar is well known.
Yes.
But they think that strings always has to be like soft or you know, melodic, but when I do the cello, something I be getting down like there's a song, and we'll go sweeping through the city. I do a version of that where I be real fast with the cello.
Yeah.
So like I heard you, you know, you be doing all those runs when you did the rock demonstration. You know, you was working that thing, you know. That's powerful, you know.
Well, that's the whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
Try to, you know, if you're doing it for a living, you know, you try to do the best, like with any job you do, be the best you can be. I try to give everybody a great performance, like a Madison Square quality type, you know.
Right.
And because especially now, if I do the busking thing, when I'm not doing the mainstream, busking is when like street performing and stuff like that.
Do you do a lot of that now, David?
Yes.
In the streets?
Yeah,
And just-
mostly right in. Yeah. I try to catch certain like events in New York. You know, there's always the theater life in
Oh,
Times
big time.
Square. You know, like
Question: how do you? So, in other words, are you telling me that now here in New York, as we're taping this is in New York City, in the dead of winter? Do you still go outside and play in the?
sometimes.
Sometime. Okay. All right.
But I see it's a certain time I would do that. Though.
All right, I see.
only go out there when I know people at a time when people are going to spend. I'm not going to go out there and freeze.
And you okay? I'm glad you said that because we don't want you out there.
Oh, no. Now the last few weeks with this, you know, below 30,
Wow.
no, I'll go in the subway or someplace else.
Ah, okay.
You know, fortunately, you know, I try to balance it out. You know, then I get something mainstream.
Yes.
And then I'll do, you know, then do that. Then when that's over, I go right back to the other thing.
Question: when you do your music, are you able to do other styles besides? I know you do rock and blues. Have you ever done any other styles?
Oh yeah, mostly. No, that's, you know, when you asked about the blues, the induction thing, because I'm more known, or at least I thought was playing for R&B, because I've worked more R&B thing gigs than anything else.
Right.
You know, mostly as a sideman. I was in the front, but as for my own thing, I was more in the blues rock community.
That's your heart. Your heart is with blues, then. So
Well, blues, funk, and rock, because I didn't grow up in the South picking cotton, you know, in the 19th century
Right.
or the 20th century and all that. Even though I've had to spend a lot of time in the South.
All right.
And because you got like you have so many of us, you know, baby boomers who are out there doing it now.
Yes.
But commercially, they still look. The business still takes a blind side to gospel and blues, so to speak, especially here in America.
Isn't that something?
Whereas over in Europe, they love the gospel and blues stuff, and and they're incorporating now a lot of stuff like the soul and R&B we grew up on is now over there just as valuable as the old blues stuff.
They come to America and love to sit in the churches with that gospel.
Exactly.
And they love that. Because, I don't know if, you know, because there's a big shift of going on as far as the religious world goes too. I was looking at something where it said a lot of the churches are closing, but they don't have that lively stuff. You know, most of them are that, you know, blues, like gospel based. You know, it's like something that they don't have over there. I guess, I'm assuming, you know, the Orthodox type churches, you know.
Okay. Let's see, we would go like this. You're in the church. Let me be one of those preachers. And the Lord said this, and the Lord said that. And now the congregation starts singing, oh my God, oh no, what's that song they sing? Ringing in the sheep,
Yeah.
ringing in the sheep, we'll all come rejoicing, ringing in the sheep. You know, just as boring as you see it do in the Western. Now you get in the black, bring in the sheep, bring in the sheep, we'll all come rejoicing. You know, you're getting up there. You
Yeah.
got the spirit.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna want to get in there on that. But once you get in somebody putting you to sleep, come on. You know, maybe that's why everybody goes to the football games. You know, I mean, you go to some churches, the preacher's like trying to hurry up, go, because he's like clocking it down.
Watch yourself,
you know, well, if I catch you at the football game, I know what happened.
This is amazing. You know, music is a universal language. Everybody
Yes.
knows that.
Yes.
It's and a lot of people have. I believe that there's a way to do music that it can reach people, and it's a spiritual thing. Music, they have a saying, music soothes the savage beast.
It can do a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a
and anybody who's been given the gift of it,
Yes.
you know, because I mean, God didn't have to do that.
right.
Yeah, because like I said, I never shot for music. When music was supposed to be something to do, just when I got into it, I said, okay, I wanted to be good at it.
Right.
It was supposed to be a hobby. I was supposed to be operating trains, either driving railroad trains or subway trains.
Some of my brand of blues, but I like some funk as well. Because you got to have some blues and put into funk and everything else. Without the blues, this is how everything would sound. So, you got to have a little bit of blues. Then you have some funk. And then you can also have some rock.
So you can play, you can ad-lib easily then. That's great.
Not all the time. I mean, sometimes I have to, to really get it down, I like to listen to it a few times before I just, hear it and just say. Sometimes you can do that, and sometimes you have to do that.
Right.
But I prefer to let it soak in.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's powerful. Yeah. Well, I was looking also. It was saying how the blues is also kind of gave birth or gave life to. Let's see, bluegrass,
bluegrass,
jazz,
yes.
R&B, rock and roll, and even rock music, like you were saying.
Everything pretty much derived from that, because like the basic scales are somewhat similar in things. But yeah, because like I told people when they said what I play, I said take it like a 4-layer cake. Classic rock, classic R&B, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of reggae, and the icing for that cake is blues.
Okay.
Because if you have to play Beethoven, it's going to sound like blues.
But you know, back in the day, they had, since you mentioned about that, they had a record called, I forgot what they call it, but It had Mozart's
Classical blues or something like
so,
that.
sort of like Mozart's 40th Symphony was it goes da 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 da, and they had that da 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 da. They gave it a beat like a rock type, you know.
Oh, a lot of cats are starting to do that now because, in fact, you'd be surprised at how many Nubians play classical, because classical was really a Nubian art form that was adapted by and taken over by Europeans. More, they dug it, and because let's face it, it came about in the Morocco area, the same place where guitars originated.
Right.
And it moved, and it just moved right across the rivers from there into the European community, and they did their styles with it also.
David, let me tell you something. This has been great, man. I'm telling you, people need to know that people have a talent. And you have a great talent, man. I appreciate you very much. I'm just meeting you, know, and this is all new for both of us.
Right.
But I'm glad we got a chance to share because music is something that enlightens the world. And hopefully we can change all this hate that's going on with some type of music. And I appreciate you, sir. And I'm hoping that, may the Master bless you with your, and keep on. I want to play together sometime. We got to work something out, you know?
We will.
I'm serious, all right?
All right.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it today. David Spectra and RKD Harris saying, have a great night. Great day.